We just had a successful launch. The response was overwhelming. We didn't thought we would have had that kind of crowd, and everybody seemed so fired up and so interested in what we're doing. So we had a very good launch. Thanks.
All right,
Yes. And
Steve.
in addition to that, the message that we sent was very positive in terms of the economic development of Guyana. And a lot of people, I think, shared our views.
All right. So if you're joining us tonight, we have Mr. Badal and Mr. Hines on our show tonight. They just had a launch slash press conference. So let me just say, I saw the entire press conference, and I am very impressed, especially with your master of ceremony, Miss Gerard. I hope she's going to continue to be a face of your political party because she did a great job, I have to say. Um, Both of you made a great presentation about what you are both about and what the Change Guyana party is all about. So, and like I said, I'm very impressed, and I do want to congratulate both of you for coming forward and taking this bold step to form a political party because we do need change in Guyana. And I like the fact that you have attached the word change to your political movement. So, with that said, I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions thrown at you between now and the date when the election is being held. So, let me first also congratulate you on a logo. Whoever is behind that logo on your website did a great job. All right. So, my first question is, um, you spend a lot of time, both of you, talking about the economic aspect, right, of the crisis in Guyana. I mean, part of your logo says, "Let's ignite the economy." So, I guess my question is, why do you think you might make a difference, given the reality of Guyanese politics and the fact that small parties have not done very well. And two examples that stands out between 1964, 68, we had the UF, and of course with the AFC. There's a lot of question about the role of the AFC. So I guess my question is, what makes Change Guyana believe that it will make a difference?
Well, Doctor, first of all, the difference is when you look at political parties or any leadership, is the personality behind it. Nigel and myself, we are both business people. We are all successful. And I think that will go well with the Guyanese public, especially in the environment under which we are now economically. And we feel that better could have been done all over over the years. We have seen depressed rural communities in the midst of abundant resources. In those communities, that better could have been done to have development projects more balanced within the country. I think the dynamics now is a bit different, but I think the main appeal will be what we bring to the table and our individual personalities. I think the people will go well with our background and our successes and the fact that we don't need to take anything personally from the economy. We are successful people. I mean, that's not the motivation. All the other um, parties I think you refer to doesn't have the profile, that we have. And we have a very bold economic program straddling the entire country. And I think the other main reason is that we're strong characters. I mean, we can stand up to any. We can stand up to the oil companies. We can stand up to any investor that comes. We don't need a photo opportunity um, uh, after which we give away our country. Um, we, we are strong, and our motivation in this is the interest of the people of Guyana. I mean, personally, I can do without this. I don't need to be in the limelight, or I don't need to be in politics. But every time I open that newspaper, I cry, see the crime, I see the poverty. Since January, friends of mine, they were asking me to do this. And until only a month ago that I finally decided. So you can understand my motivation
Mhm.
in getting into this movement.
And
Well,
to add to that, one of the cornerstones of Change Guyana is our unwillingness and non-interest in joining with any of the major political parties, which in the past have subsumed the likes of AFC and TUF and many of the others. So ours is one where we are like a middle force, and we see ourselves as unique in Guyana, reducing
well,
the divisiveness of politics
yeah.
and, and this current negative political culture.
Well, let me ask you this now. In Guyana's politics, we know that the political space, right, is dominated by these two major political parties, the PPP and the PNC. And small parties have never really been able to kind of, you know, make a breakthrough, right? So, and I know it was said before that Change Guyana will not coalesce with any political party. But here's the problem, and Freddie Kisson wrote about this today. It takes a tremendous amount of resources. And I know both of you gentlemen are very wealthy. So that's one resource that you probably have a lot of. But it also takes a lot of political organization, right? Now, we're only seeing the faces of the two of you. So, organizational strength and the resources, and then being able to mobilize that resource to then go out there and mobilize voters, because the goal is to win voters, right? So here's my question: is Change Guyana prepared to campaign in every of the 10 region? I know you have to campaign at least, or you have to work in at least 6 regions, right, to be able to participate in the process. So, are you strong enough to be able to do that in all of the regions?
Of course, that's what we commit ourselves to. We'll be campaigning in we'll contest all the regions, all the 10 regions, and you know, I mean, when people believe in you, the resources are always there. We don't come. We didn't get into this with any negativity. To ourselves, we feel that it's strongly needed given the current situation. We see that administration after administration making the same mistake. They're competing for resources and they're using the racial divide to ignite flames of racial insecurity. Those things are very distasteful to myself and Nigel.
Yeah.
And you know, I think our programs and our social media and our passion, in this movement will ignite a lot of interest and will demonstrate to people that hope is finally here. I mean, I can't see the fact that we are at this stage of development, where we can't afford a lot of things, a lot of spending of government, uh, like in medical care, can't take place without a grant or an IDB fund and these kind of things. That people would sit silently there. They will sit in their living room. Yes, they will be scared to come out. But at the end of the day, when it's time to mark their X on the ballot, I think they will see us as a credible option, a very powerful force, one that rekindle the hope that a developed Guyana is finally possible. I have no doubt in my mind. I mean, and I will try, Nigel and I will try every day in every community to make this work. If it doesn't work, then that's the choice of the people. We are,
Well, let me ask you this then. I mean, I'm trying to be as realistic as I can, right? Knowing what Guyana's politics is all about. And like I said, you have the PNC and the PPP, but you also have smaller political parties. You have ANOG. You have a party that was formed by Ruel Johnson and others. And we have Schumann's political party, and now we have Change. Is it possible? And again, I'm floating an idea here. Since it's going to be difficult, in my view, to make a dent, right? Because you're not really a national party, right? Because there are other parties that are much powerful in terms of resource and strength and support. So here's my question: is it possible? I know Nigel mentioned a third force, right? Is it possible for these smaller political parties to form a coalition? And I'm trying to get to the point where if you do form a coalition, right, a genuine coalition, not a coalition of convenience, and that coalition now can hope to get in number of seats, and with that seat, you can take away that majority control of the parliamentary branch. So therefore, you can now act as a power broker, right? The small political parties, and then try to force changes, economic changes that you're talking about, or the constitutional reforms, that others are talking about. Is that a possible scenario?
With the successful launch we've had tonight and the momentum we're building and the structures that we are putting in place, we've already received overtures from some of the other parties, and this is positive for us. Some of them have infrastructure and support bases in the regional communities, and these will be utilized and benefit Change Guyana. And we also intend to, as Robert noted, campaign across Guyana. And we understand clearly where the votes are, how we can attract voters, and the policies that we have are very positive, from the persons living in poverty to the working class. Then we look at the tax incentives that will create employment, the access to health care. So our campaign, aside from being policy driven, the umbrella that we have in Change Guyana will be very attractive to a lot of the smaller parties. And we've already received positive overtures in terms of being able to finance a campaign that can be competitive. Back in 2011, AFC received 33,000 votes, and that gave them, I think, 6 or 7 seats. And we believe we can perform better than that. And that will be enough to make the point that you have referenced, where we can be a major player at the legislative level.
Okay, so then a coalition with the major political parties is out, but you're also saying a coalition of the smaller parties is also out?
Doctor, we didn't get into this thinking that we can't make the grade. You know, in politics, there are so many uncertainties, but we are going ahead with this with the vigor and strength and the organization that we think will make it successful. If it happened that other parties share our values and our programs, then sure, we like as much people as possible. But our focus now is what we can do, what we can mobilize, where we should go next. Our press conference next Tuesday, and every Tuesday, we'll be developing more the programs that we have outlined. So, the thing about whether we'll make the grade and the two big parties, I mean, that's not in our mind right now. Sorry about that. Doctor,
Yeah.
sorry, but I have another appointment, so I have to leave. Nigel
Okay.
will remain with you, but I don't want those kind of thing in my mind about not not being dominated by two. That's the very reason we're into
Mhm.
this, and we will do whatever we can. If we are not successful, so be it. But I think we'll go with it every day, using all the resources in terms of organization and people mobilizing and strategic areas and our social media and all these kind of things. So that's the approach we'll take, moving forward. But thank you so much
All
for.
right, and I hope I get a chance to speak to you again at some point.
Yes, yes, I'm available. Just let me know.
All right, thank you, and I hope Nigel can stay with us for a little while.
Thank you so much.
Okay, certainly.
All right, so one of the things that you guys have stressed is the economic development and a plan to do so, but not much was mentioned about um, agriculture, right? I mean, the oil that's coming in is not going to be there forever. So my question is, do you have any plans at some point to reveal to the Guyanese public about how you plan to address, agricultural development? Because that's also going to be an important sector. I mean, we have to live, we have to grow food. Instead of importing, we can do a lot of these things as we're doing right now.
The agricultural sector is vital to Guyana's development. When you consider rice, sugar, the other agricultural areas, livestock, cash crops, we have plans that will cause those areas of our economy, those major sectors, to develop at a rapid pace. Let us take the sugar industry. We recently had, I think it was Rose Hall and Moore and Skeldon closed down. We are
Mhm.
looking to make those, revitalize those sugar estates and make them into quasi energy centers where they'll be selling electricity to GPL or to any private entrepreneur who may be involved in energy production. So we have plans for the sugar industry. The rice industry, we want to make Guyana Rice Development Board into a more regulatory organization and not be too involved in the activities of the farmers and the millers. So we will have a more free market system. We will have tax breaks and the removal of VAT on imports of heavy duty machinery across industries such as rice, mining, and sugar. We will have zero VAT on exports. As I mentioned earlier, and this goes beyond the revitalization of the agricultural sector, we will be removing taxes such as property tax, estate tax, capital gains tax. We plan to reduce, and this will be done immediately under a Change Guyana administration.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
also will reduce VAT to 12% within
Okay.
our first year in office.
Now let me ask you this. Now, both of you have made corruption a centerpiece of your platform, right? You've talked about corruption tonight. So, and sometimes leaders have to lead by example, and it's fair to say that both of you are wealthy. So my question is: are both of you willing to lead by example by releasing, information about how wealthy you are? Are you willing to, for instance, to maybe, you know, put your wealth in some kind of blind trust? So this way, Guyanese can say, well, look, these two guys really believe in change, and they're leading by example, and that's probably one way, you can show that you're concerned about corruption. How does
Well,
that fly with you?
I have a thriving business. I wouldn't refer to myself as wealthy. I have a business, Nigel Hines Financial Services. In terms of the blind trust, I know the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, who was a extremely wealthy businessman. I think it's Alain Chalanet, if I may have his last name incorrectly. But he has not put his business into a blind trust. But these things will be considered as we focus more on the campaign and we get closer to election date. But at this point, the issues such as blind trust are not priority issues. What we're focused on is coming up with policies and programs that will increase economic development, accelerate economic development, reduce divisiveness, reduce poverty, access to healthcare, free education at the university level. Those are some of our priorities. And of course, connecting with peoples in all the 10 regions, from Barima Waini to Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo, East Borbis, Quarantine, um, Pomeroon, Supanam, and getting candidates to be part of our list to prepare for the general elections.
All right. Now, do you see a role for the for Guyanese in the diaspora?
Absolutely. Only today I was interacting with one of my colleagues in the diaspora, and we get sage advice from many of the Guyanese in the diaspora. One of the anomalies in our system is that at every level, dual citizens can vote for persons to represent them in parliament, and yet those persons in parliament cannot be dual citizens. Now, we think this is something that has to be, it's really a defect in our constitution that should be addressed.
So you
But
think
that
Guyanese should have dual citizens,
vital, and we
dual
plan
citizen?
to be visiting Canada and the United States over the next couple of months and meeting with the different diaspora groups for their support and advice.
So you're in support of dual citizenship.
Well, I'm in support of the Constitution in the sense that we must adhere to the Constitution. We should not be violating the Constitution.
But
That is,
constitutions can also be changed, though.
that's right. That is one change that I will fully support.
All right. Now, I want to come back to this question I asked before. So I want to be clear that you're saying that you're not, Change Guyana will not form any coalition with the current coalition or the PPP. Is that something that you're saying very clearly?
Yeah, let me say with absolute clarity, Change Guyana will not form a coalition with APNU or its premier component, the People's National Congress Reform, nor will we form a coalition with the People's Progressive Party Civic.
That's something it seems sounds very familiar. That from the AFC, they've said the same thing. But you're also saying that you will not consider forming a coalition with the smaller parties because, like I said, I think if you can capture with the smaller parties a few seats, you can force that change. In Guyana. So you're saying that's also out?
Well, we would like to take the lead as a middle force, where Change Guyana can provide an umbrella for the other parties be, besides the two major parties. We believe that Change Guyana will have the policy framework and the strategy and the financing and the support of the people. Following on this successful launch which we've had tonight, we believe that working with the smaller parties will be positive for the kind of inclusiveness and reduction of the racial tensions across Guyana.
Now that you brought that up, how do you plan to address that? I'm sure you will have more to say in the future, but how do you plan to address the racial divide in Guyana?
A lot of it is driven by the larger political parties because of their support base, because of their demographics. So one of the key ways to address uh, the racial divide is really through economic development and reduction of poverty, because and a better educated citizenry. So what we have in our instance is, poor education and high levels of impoverishment. And this has caused the divisiveness and the negative political culture to crystallize into tribal camps. What we will seek to do, currently Guyana has a mixed race of about 18%, and there are many persons who are not happy with the performance and the behavior of the major parties. And we believe we can encourage those persons to join the Change Guyana movement.
Now, how do you plan to address the issue of crime?
Well, one of the problems with the lack of security and the spiraling crime rate is the absence of a cohesive plan to deal with the criminality that is taking place. Aside from incentivizing the policemen, you crime goes beyond the the, com, the occurrence of a theft, a robbery, or even a murder. A lot of these things really come down to poverty. When you look at who are committing the crimes, We have a lot of functionally illiterate people committing crimes. These are not really planned robberies or criminal activities that the perpetrators have a chance of getting away scot free. It is out of desperation. A lot of youths are involved in crime, and this can be addressed by a lot of remedial training, education, vocational training for our youths, the access to sports and other programs that will take them off of the streets and into centers of learning. We are in the internet age, and there are lots of opportunities for training of our youths in a manner that will prevent them or reduce significantly their participation in crime.
Well, let me ask you one more question, and then we'll come to a close. Besides the two of you who are now the face of this party, who were some other credible faces or members who are members of the Change Guyana political party, besides you and
The
Mr.
Change
Badal?
Guyana Party has a number of persons in the background. We wouldn't like to name names at this point, but at every press conference that we have, which will take place each Tuesday, persons will come forward and be on our platform. Tonight we had multiple persons signing up to be members of Change Guyana Party, and we believe this will continue at a faster pace as our program becomes more known to the Guyanese people.
All right, the producer is saying that I should wrap it up. So you have maybe a last few parting words you want to share with the audience before we go?
Well, Change Guyana, we believe, is the right choice right now. We focus on tax incentives for economic development and the reduction of poverty as our two primary planks that will lift Guyana out of economic underdevelopment. And just let me say thank you on behalf of Change Guyana for having us on GlobeSpan.
Thank you, and I wish you all the luck and best wishes, your wishes on the campaign trail, and I hope you do very well.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.